Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier, with a presentation that will look at the blame game for World War I. I'm not looking at the historiography though, rather who blamed who for the war. Now those who negotiated the Paris peace treaties were not in doubt. Article 231, the infamous guilt clause of the Treaty of Versailles, was unequivocal in apportioning blame to Germany, and Article 177 of the Treaty of Saint-Germain read exactly the same, but with Austria substituted for Germany. Wilhelm, as German Kaiser, was singled out for personal blame, for the supreme offence against international morality and the sanctity of treaties. There were attempts to bring Wilhelm to account in an international trial, but the Dutch, he had fled to Holland on abdicating the German throne, refused to hand him over. After the war, Germany of course had a vested interest in challenging the verdict expressed in Article 231. Consequently, Germany put a great deal of energy into disproving the validity of the clause. The German Foreign Office set up a war guilt section, which in turn financed, organised and directed 2 units. A working committee of German associations for combating lies concerning war responsibilities, not exactly a pithy title, and the more academic Centre for the Study of the Causes of War, which recruited teachers, academics from universities and journalists. It produced 40 volumes, though the evidence it used was highly selective, and some documents have since been found to have been falsified. Of course, Germany's efforts to remove the weight of blame away from itself alone met a response from other powers, the British, French and Austrians, but not the Serbs, interestingly, whilst Russia, now a communist state, released volumes of detailed diplomatic records in the interwar period, putting the blame on all the imperialist powers. Britain released no less than 11 volumes of British documents on the origins of the war. And actually, Austria wasn't far behind, with 8 volumes of material. But what of the memoirs of those involved? Konrad von Hossendorf, the Chief of Staff of the Austro-Hungarian Army, writing in his memoirs, seemed to accept that Austria-Hungary should take the blame for at least risking a general war, as it tried to preserve its multinational empire against nationalist forces. The Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Sassanov, in his memoirs, not surprisingly, placed the blame on Austria-Hungary, and Germany too. He argued that Austria-Hungary had, and I quote, a carefully prepared plan elaborated with the aid of the German government, without whose consent and promise of support Austria-Hungary would never have ventured upon its execution. Though Sassanov also placed responsibility on Britain for not unequivocally supporting France and Russia. Another leading Russian diplomat, Envy Chacharikau, wrote in his memoirs that the Great War was the inevitable consequence of the encouragement given by Germany to Austria-Hungary in her policy of penetration into the Balkans, which combined with the grandiose pan-German idea of a Germanized Middle Europe. That's another direct quote. Lord George, in his memoirs, however, more balanced in his view, suggested that Europe's nations rather than winning war, lost control of events and slithered over the brink. Bethmann Hollweg would support this view. As Germany mobilized, he is reported as saying, "Things are out of control and the stone has started to roll." Two very different individuals from very different political perspectives reached the conclusion that responsibility should be shared, though they came to it from very different directions. America's President, Woodrow Wilson, felt very strongly that it was the self-serving aims of Europe's great powers and their over-dependence on secret diplomacy that had brought about the catastrophe. Whereas Lenin, in his 1916 pamphlet Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, decried the war as an imperialist war, arguing that the governments of the great powers, all imperial powers, had each succumbed to the demands of capitalists for the monopoly of markets. On seizing power in October 1917, the Bolsheviks published documents showing that Russia had been promised Constantinople and the Straits, including a parcel of land on each side of the waterway, by the French and British governments. So there's some immediate responses for you, almost immediate anyway. I do have quite a detailed set of notes on the historiography. If you want them, drop me a line at historymadeeasier@gmail.com and I'll pass them on to you, no problem. And do not worry, I promise you faithfully, I will not abuse your trust and pester you. You will not hear from me again unless I hear from you. But I would also add that I've just finished reading Christopher Clark's book on the causes of World War I, The Sleepwalkers, and it's really changed my thinking. It challenges the conventional wisdom on this topic. It's a super read. Watch this space and my website. But for now, let me thank you for listening and wish you the very best of luck with your studies. Cheers.